What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. Today is Monday, which means Monday Mail Day. And I got a lot of questions, so let's get right into it without further ado. First question is from Ferg FTW. Ego, love the channel, bro. Keep doing your thing. Thank you. Question: after the brutal KO by Spence, what do you think is next for him? I don't see Brook coming back down to 147. Now, I told people, for Golovkin Brook, I'm picking Golovkin. I'm one of those believers in size matters. I think Kell Brook can do well for himself for some rounds, but ultimately the inevitable will happen. I think Golovkin winning, and there's a strong chance Golovkin can stop him late in that particular fight for me. So with all that being considered, I don't think it'd be wise. This was kind of like a once and done gamble for Kell Brook, meaning if he jumps these two weight classes, gets knocked out, then it's not gonna be wise for him to jump back down or go back down to 147 straight away, right? It's just, you don't want to, he's 30 years old, you don't want to do that to your body, just keep fluctuating and bouncing up and down and stuff. I honestly believe that's kind of why Roy Jones Jr. got knocked out, because he went all the way to heavyweight and then didn't really taper down. He kind of just went back down, and he fought Antonio Tarver, and the rest is history. So next for for Spence, I just want to see him get a shot. I think the belt will become vacant somehow. Either Kell Brook will vacate or take too long to fight after the Golovkin fight. So hopefully he can fight whoever's in line, Konstantin Ponomarev or whoever the IBF has in line for that particular belt. But I think he worked this hard to get a title shot. He can't really control what Kell Brook has done with his career. And that's another thing that bothers me with Kell Brook's move, is he fought Sean Porter, which was a huge step up. He came to the States to do it. Everybody, or at least me, I gave him a ton of credit for it. And then for like a year and a half, 2 years, he didn't really fight anybody that people wanted to see him fight at the welterweight division, which is stacked. You know what I mean? He was fighting Frankie Gavin. There's clearly much better. I mean, even the fight with Diego Chavez or Brandon Rios, not necessarily the most meaningful fights at welterweight, but certainly better than Jojo Dan, Frankie Gavin, Kevin Bezier, stuff like that, based on what those guys do well. So for whatever reason, didn't do that. Now he's doing this radical move to fight Golovkin, so it's up to him. But it just sucks that Spence did all this work to get to this position, and now the champion's not even necessarily going to be a champion in the division, because he might end up vacating. Just really depends on what happens in the Golovkin fight, because even if he beats Golovkin, I mean, is he going to just drop back down after he just beat the #1 middleweight? He's going to drop back down and fight Errol Spence Jr. and fluctuate his weight. So to me, I don't really see Kell Brook having that belt too much longer. It's my personal opinion. So it sucks, but Spence will probably fight for a vacant title. All right, next question is from Sada El Nigga. What's up, Ego? I love your channel, man. Keep growing. 1, what's next for Spence Jr.? He just knocked out Badou like he wasn't shit. I think Badou was dreaming sweetly, and I kind of just went over that in the last one, so you can just refer to that. I think Spence just keep doing what he's doing, impressing people. He should go the title route. Obviously, I want to see Keith Thurman and fights like Danny Garcia, but he might as well just stay to the title shot route, get a title, and then those fights with Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman will be bigger because he'll be more known by being a champion, and then there'll be unification bouts so he can request more money, things of that sort. So that's what I think is next for Spence. You did all this work to get in line for the IBF shot. Just keep following that route and fight whoever you have to, whether it's Kell Brook or if he vacates, fight the #2 guy or whatever. #2, Badou Jack versus James DeGale, unification soon, maybe in October. Who you got? And the winner gets Ramirez next year. What do you think about that? That's good. I mean, I'm all for unifications. I'll never be really opposed to that in a stacked division, but I don't know if that will be made because Ramirez is working with Arum. If they fight, who you got between Jack or Ramirez, or DeGale versus Ramirez? A lot of questions. Normally I don't do many predictions, so I'll just stick to the I don't do predictions in the Monday mail days because there's a lot of particulars, and I don't want to be held to some prediction for fights that far out. You know what I mean? Like in 2017, like you have to, because when I do predictions, I try to get it down to the molecule and really study if I don't know much about the person. So there's just too many variables. Like Gilberto Ramirez is currently injured. I just seen him in Vegas. Cool dude. He has an arm injury. So I don't want to say, oh, he beats this person and he comes back and loses his belt to somebody else, or he doesn't look the same after this injury. So there's just too many things that can happen in between now and then. So I don't like giving predictions in general on Monday mail days, and definitely not far out, because I really study the game and I look for different things, how they looked in their last fight, who they fought, different things like that. So I'm not going to like make a prediction that far out. But Badou Jack and James DeGale, that's a closer fight. I don't know, because every time I go against Badou Jack, that's my dude, met him in Vegas. Every time I go against him, he ends up winning. That's a 50-50 fight. James DeGale didn't look that great in his last fight, and Badou Jack actually looked better versus Lucien Bute. And they said it was a draw, but I didn't see it that way. So that's an even fight. James DeGale, he's an Olympian. I might give him a slight edge, but I don't know. That's subject to change because, like I said, Badou Jack, I thought Anthony Durrell was going to beat him. He proved me wrong. I thought George Groves had a strong shot to beat him, and that would be a good fight. He knocks George Groves down, I believe, and beat him. So I don't know. It's kind of looking like you don't want to go against Badou Jack. He's a guy you don't expect much from necessarily. He's like kind of like a Danny Garcia. People overlook Danny Garcia like, man, this club fighter, he's slow, he's this, he's that, but he keeps winning. You know what I mean? And then James DeGale, he looked real good versus Andre Durrell, and he kind of fizzled out and let Durrell catch back up and get back into the fight after knocking him down and having him badly hurt. So that's really a fight that could go either way. Maybe a slight edge to James DeGale. I think maybe he's been a champion longer, but that's a really close fight where either guy, it's really going to boil down to game plan. So if I had to pick on the spot, I would say a very slight edge to James DeGale, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Badou Jack outworks him and beats him. Next question is from Julio C. What's next for Conor? How about Diaz? For me, I think Conor should drop back down to weight for sure and probably pursue the fight he was going to fight before he fought Nate in the first place. This whole 170 business is, I mean, he proves he can hang at 170, but I don't think that's the best Conor McGregor. I don't think his body is optimal at 170 because he doesn't perform as well. Like when you look at the fight with Chad Mendes had him on the ground for a while, and then he still got back up, had enough energy and stretched Chad Mendes and knocked him out, right, with strikes. So 170 just seems like it's a bigger pill to swallow for him because his stamina never looks good in both of those fights with Nate Diaz. Maybe it's just Diaz's style, the relentless pressure, but whatever it is, he doesn't look like he has the same gas tank at 170. So I think he should definitely drop back down, fight a RDA, maybe even fight a Jose Aldo rematch because Aldo looked good in the Edgar fight. So those are my picks for Conor McGregor, what he should do next, RDA or Jose Aldo. As far as Diaz, I like Diaz, shout out to Diaz, but he said he's not coming back to the UFC unless it's for Conor. So I don't know. He got cashed out, and I think he might just try to just chill and hang out because that's what he said post-fight. So I'm not really going to select any opponents for Diaz because I don't even know if he wants to fight unless it's not Conor McGregor. He feels a bit of spite, it sounds like, because Conor McGregor's the cash cow and he thinks he's getting unfair treatment, and Conor McGregor's getting favoritism, and all Conor did was complain about losing the first fight and wanted an immediate rematch, and then Dana White tried to put that together. Now that Conor McGregor has lost, he doesn't get an immediate rematch and he wants the trilogy. So it's just unfortunate for Diaz because I know he wants the third fight, and I don't think Dana White's in a rush to put Conor McGregor back in that fight because they both have been grueling for Conor McGregor and he's the quote-unquote A side. Next question is from Tanzim Ali. Ego, do you think Danny Garcia has power in welterweight as his punches did not hurt Robert very much? I don't agree with that. I think he's growing coming into the division. He stopped Paulie Malignaggi, which, I mean, that was expected. But he got the stoppage. Robert Guerrero has a beard, whether you think so or not. And he's tough. And the fact is, I can't say that he didn't hurt Robert very much because he didn't drop him. He was looking good in that fight to me. That fight was back in January. And it was only his second fight at welterweight. I assume as he acclimates, he's going to get more comfortable with the added weight and just acclimate to the weight division a bit better. But I don't think you really say that. That's like saying Pacquiao didn't hurt Brandon Rios, but nobody stopped Brandon Rios with a headshot. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the knockdown in the Pacquiao Rios fight was not ruled a knockdown. So technically, you would, using that logic, you had to say, oh, since there was no knockdowns in the Rios Pacquiao fight, Pacquiao wasn't hurting him. And I don't think that. I think he was getting hurt. I think Rios was hurt in that fight. He just has a good poker face. Same thing with Robert Guerrero. For whatever reason, nobody's been able to stop him. He has a chin. I mean, some guys are built like that. So I do think Danny Garcia has power. You're not going to just walk through his shots like Robert Guerrero. You know what I mean? That's kind of what Robert Guerrero's his MO lately. It's just like more that warrior machismo style, but it looked like they hurt to me. So I don't think guys like Keith Thurman and Errol Spence Jr. are just going to want to eat shots because I don't know what their chin's like. You know what I mean? And that's just what it is. Keith Thurman couldn't stop him, another power puncher. So he was basically similar fight. He got knocked down. That's the only difference. But at the end of the day, Garcia, I think he has pop. He definitely has enough pop to, so you're not going to try nothing funny. He could, like if he fought Amir Khan, he may knock Khan out in a rematch. We don't know. But I do think he has power at welterweight, to answer your question. Next question is from Kid Stacy. Sup, Ego? Keep doing what you're doing, brother. New media. I got two questions. One, what are your thoughts about a weight limit cap at heavyweight? I've always suggested that. I always think it would be nice to see a heavyweight and super heavyweight, because you look at it, there's guys like Glaskov, Steve Cunningham. They were all fighting, even maybe in Amir Mansour. But the difference with Mansour and Amir Mansour or whatever is he has a lot of power, even for his size. But if you look at him, if you put Amir Mansour next to Deontay Wilder, there's going to be a great height disparity. You know what I mean? Wilder being 6'7", 230, 232. Klitschko 6'6", 250, 260. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of crazy that the heavyweights got to fight all these gargantuan dudes and Tyson Furies and stuff like that. Look at the Tyson Fury versus Steve Cunningham. That's a perfect example. It just looked like, I don't know. I've seen like Leo Santa Cruz versus Carl Frampton, and there's a height disparity, but Tyson Fury versus Steve Cunningham height disparity looks like ridiculous. Not just height, also with how wide Tyson Fury is next to Steve Cunningham, who is in shape. You know what I mean? He's a former Marine, I believe, and he's pretty big. He's pretty built, and it looks like his parents or something. He just looks real big. So yeah, that would be cool to see heavyweight, super heavyweight. If they had like a cap off, and depending on how much you weigh, that's going to determine where you fall. Like there's another guy, Jarrell Big Baby Miller, who just fought. He's like, I don't even know how tall he is, but he looks pretty tall, and he's weighing 300 pounds. So you know what I mean? How is Steve Cunningham going to deal with that? I know he dropped back down to cruiserweight, but hypothetically, how is Glaskov and these dudes gonna fight a big ass 300-pound man who, you know what I mean? Steve Cunningham, I don't remember how much he was weighing, but I want to say 210, maybe 215. So how's he gonna deal with somebody who has like an 85-pound weight advantage like Gerald Big Baby Miller? You know what I mean? So it just seems kind of crazy at that point. But hey, I guess don't box. And number two, if you could decide on the next boxer biopic for a movie, which boxer would it be? Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh, so I'm gonna assume this is a boxer that they haven't done like too many movies about. So they already got Hands of Stone. They already got Divini Pazienza. Honestly, I would say a real good updated Mike Tyson movie. Roy Jones. That would be good. it has to be a boxer with an interesting story. So I would say something like that, Roy Jones or Mike Tyson, because I think they have interesting stories. Maybe even a Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., things like that. Those will probably be my picks for a biopic. But the thing is, all those guys are kind of really charismatic, so you got to get the right person to kind of capture their essence. Otherwise, it'll be whack. You know what I mean? Roy Jones had a certain charisma, so if you get somebody in there who's whack and can't act and can't look the part and get in Roy's type of shape in his prime and stuff like that, then I wouldn't even want to see it. So they'd have to, if they do it, they have to do it well and do it with the right people and the right cast and right director and stuff. Next question is from AJ's. Would it be smart for Al Haymon to make a move on Pacquiao? Now, I don't think that's possible because Pacquiao, I believe, is under contract with Top Rank. So even though HBO didn't pick up his fight, that's HBO, that's a network. But to my knowledge, Pacquiao is still signed with Top Rank. So I don't think Al Haymon can make a move on Pacquiao. I mean, he could maybe do business with him and get him on his network if that's what you're referring to. Yeah, so that would be like, if he can get him on PBC, of course. I mean, free TV, get to see Pacquiao. That would be big business. So if he can get him in there like Danny Garcia or Adrian Broner versus Pacquiao on PBC, I would make those type of moves if that's feasible. I don't know how much that would cost to Pacquiao and how much Aaron would want for something like that. But hey, I'm always open to exploring options. Now AJ's has another question. When are you and Dontae gonna get an actual DCAF on the panel? I don't know, because I mean, I know Dontae is always requesting, like when people leave crazy comments in his comment section or say stuff that is the complete opposite of what we're saying. He always invites them to the show, and you'll be surprised how many people turn it down. They got a lot to say in the YouTube comment sections, but then when they have a chance to showcase that in front of his complete audience, 50,000 subscribers or more, they always get cold feet. So I can't really tell you when that's gonna happen, because somebody reasonable has to be willing. You have to be willing. You know what I mean? It's like two people. Like if Golovkin wants to fight Canelo and Canelo doesn't want to get in the ring with him, and his team don't want to get in the ring with him, then the fight's not gonna happen. So it's the same thing with these decafs. If they're not willing to take the challenge. And I think most people, at the end of the day, that's the thing that's wrong with the internet. The internet, there's no accountability. You can say fuck, shit ass, bitch, cunt, chuba to do wop. You can do whatever. You can call people the N-word. You can call people bitches and pussies and all types of shit like that. Every time I go to the fight, it's never that. Every fight I've ever covered is always love. I never see the people, and I doubt that some of the people don't go to the fights too, right? But the people that have left the craziest comments and stuff, I never really see them at the fights, or they don't come up to me, they don't say that. So that's the thing with the internet. There's no accountability for your actions. You're not held to anything. You could just say whatever and do a drive-by. Like, fuck you, bitch, ha ha ha, and then you're just out. So when it comes to like a show, like an actual syndicated type of show, then a lot of people get cold feet, because you can't do no disappearing act. Like, he has the audio boards and the producer George and whatnot. So if they start saying crazy dumb shit and not having a professional debate and like just cussing people out, then they get muted or they get disconnected. It's that simple. And then the whole world will know why they did that, because they couldn't debate intelligently. So it's different, like debating with real motherfuckers who like boxing, who study boxing, who make a living off of boxing, versus just being in the comment section. Because this happens to me all the time. I'll make a video and they'll be like, haha, you're gay, ego, you suck, with no explanation. They're not telling me what they disagree with or anything. And then if I even humor them with the response, then they can get it and not respond if they want to. But it's different. If you're being drilled on the show, you're in the hot seat. You know what I mean? You're on the radio show, and if people are asking you direct questions, you're going to have to come up with shit. And the other thing is, a lot of people can't do an hour-long show on boxing and not be well-versed, because you're not going to be able to, if you're on the phone, like I use my cell phone to call in, right? So if I don't know shit about boxing and they're asking me, oh, what do you think about Amir Mansour? And I don't know who the fuck that is, right? Then I can't just really go to Google because it's like hot potato. They've already passed the rock to me, the hot potato to me. And if I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, I don't know who Victor Postal is or this and that, then I can't really Google and have a fluid conversation. So it's a lot more than what people think. People think just even Monday Mail Day, stuff like this. I talk on here 30 minutes, 40 minutes straight, an hour sometimes. I've even done hour-long videos where I'm answering questions. So I have to be well-versed enough to know the answers, know what people are talking about. If they're like, what do you think of Leonard Bundu? What's next for him? I can't be like, who's Bundu in the middle of this? So you just got to know your shit. And ultimately, a lot of the DCAFs, they'd rather do. It's just like when Floyd was in talks to kind of fight Pacquiao, and we never knew when it was going to happen. People were more content with just calling Floyd a chicken, a bitch, a coward, a runner, and all this. And when the fight got made, you've seen a lot of people tuck their tail, and it's like they didn't really want the fight to happen. They were more content just saying Floyd was scared. But when he posted that contract, you've seen a different reaction from those people because they knew it was a real fight and they knew Pacquiao would probably lose. But anyway, next question, Brandon Fulford. Ego, if Brook loses to Triple G, which I think he will, I don't see him wanting to jump in there with Spence right after a loss. I don't either. Spence hit Bundu's head so hard he pushed out a D-Town shag cut style on the back of Bundu's head. You're doing too much. Everyone, for those that don't know, Errol Spence Jr. is a cut, and it's popular in Texas. It looks like kind of like a shag mullet with extra hair in the back, and then the front's tapered. And I guess he's saying that he got Spence hit Bundu so hard it formed that type of mullet cut on his head. How long do you think Brook will delay Spence? I could see him making a fake injury because if he loses, he is either gonna feel, well, I handled Triple G's power, Spence won't be no problem, or the loss is gonna be hard on him. He is undefeated after all. I just don't, honestly, if he loses like I suspect him to lose to Golovkin, I don't see him dropping back down to fight Errol Spence Jr. It's just like, who wants to take that type of back-to-back? Like, he would probably take an Amir Khan fight before Errol Spence Jr. if Amir Khan wants to fight at that point, because Amir Khan is going to bring him more money, and that's how some of these fighters and their teams are thinking right now. Amir Khan makes more money, plus Amir Khan's not a knockout artist, you know what I mean? He's not he got knocked out in his last fight. So if Kell Brook gets knocked out by Golovkin, it's like two people who both recently got knocked out with losses, right? So that's different than going up against a young, strong, hungry lion like Errol Spence Jr., who nobody has been able to fully expose the blueprint on how to beat him because he's undefeated. Plus, he puts a lot of pressure on you, and he's Olympian. He's a good boxer. So I think that belt is finito for Kell Brook. I don't think he's going to fight at 147, and if he does, I think it'll be more calculated. If he loses to Golovkin, it'll be more calculated, like a guy like Amir Khan, if they can finally get that fight going. Because Amir Khan recently, after denying Kell Brook for years, he's recently said, oh, I'll fight him. He's fighting Golovkin, I'll fight him. So who knows? But that's just my take on it. We'll see what happens and what the real deal is. Next question is from Matthew Bushby. Ego, are you going to come over to the UK to cover a fight sometime soon? I really want to. I used to live in England. I told you guys that. I used to live in Suffolk and real close to London. My family used to go see Big Ben and stuff like that. But it just has to be the right fight. Like, I mean, travel expenses and stuff like that. I want to make sure it's a fight that's going to be memorable, and I know the crowd and stuff is good, and that would be excellent. But I just want to go for the right fight. I was kind of thinking like, oh, Brook versus Golovkin, but maybe if Brook acclimated to 160, then I would be more involved with this fight. But I really think I know the outcome of this particular fight, as most people do. So it just has to be the right fight. Like if they had Wilder Anthony Joshua or something crazy, or Fury Joshua or Deontay Wilder Joshua, I would really try to get out for fights like that, because those, to me, those would be worth it. And I don't actually know what would happen. I have a prediction on any fight, but those are more competitive fights to me that make more sense than like a Golovkin Brook. So it just really has to be the right fight, and that's just kind of what it is. Next question is from lightskin_nerd21. What is your dream matchup for next year? A fight you absolutely would want to happen by the end of 2016 or early 2017. Who and why? By the way, love the channel. #new media. Good question. I kind of just went over some of them. At heavyweight, mix any of these guys up. Any of them. Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. Or you can even throw Luis King Kong Ortiz versus Wilder. King Kong Ortiz versus Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury. So any of those heavyweights, round robin, any of those styles, I would love to see. Of course, one I've been promoting on the channel that I really want to see, Canelo versus Golovkin. It's a meaningful fight. Canelo's clearly big enough to make middleweight. It's a fight I want to see. I want to see Golovkin in there with somebody with the skill set of Canelo, and I love that fight. Vasyl Lomachenko, Nicholas Walters, Gary Russell Jr. rematch, anything like that would be great. Who else is there that I really want? I'm trying to think of Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence. Those are fights I really want to see. Who else is there? The 154 pounders. There's so many great fights that could get made, to be honest. 154 pounders like J-Rock versus Charlo versus Lada, J-Rock versus Lada, Demetrius Andrade. Mix any of those guys up. I want to see those fights. Brandon Rios versus Victor Ortiz. I've been wanting to see that, even though Rios got stopped in his last fight, and so did Ortiz. I still would want to see it because of the build-up, the bad blood. I gotta pick a Broner fight. Broner, Danny Garcia. That's another one. Broner, Pacquiao. Actually, I'd watch Broner Pacquiao for the build-up, but that's not high on my list because I think I know the outcome of that fight. But yeah, any of those fights like that would be great. Terrence Crawford, Pacquiao. That's a good fight. And that's my picks. Next question, boxing fans of the world, Bobby Price. Yo, Ego, any advice for someone who started their own channel? How did you end up interviewing all these fighters? You just walk up in the gym. First you get the money, then you get the power, then the motherfucking respect. No, I'm just playing. That's from a song. But I started my own channel, or advice to people starting their own channel. I've got this question a lot. Just be consistent, be passionate, whatever your niche is, know what you're talking about, be well versed. Try to there's a difference between constructive criticism and hating. And the bigger you get, the more you'll receive the latter. But try to be able to separate the difference between constructive criticism. And people are really saying stuff, and some people don't even know how to word it properly, and it still sounds like hating, but it's still constructive criticism. So you have to be able to fine tune and sift through the comments and pick and choose the things that you think. Like if someone's like, all your pictures on your thumbnails are fucking trash, I mean, that's kind of hating, but maybe it is trash, you know what I mean? Maybe I do need to up it. So you got to kind of pick and choose some of the comments and grow with them and see what your fan, because that's really why, like when I got videos, I just did the Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz post fight, and it got like over 300,000 views, and it's been up less than 48 hours. So when you start getting good views and stuff like that, your audience is going to tell you what they like, what they dislike. So you have to grow with that, and you have to cater to your audience, because without an audience, then none of this would be necessary. Or you making videos, you just be making videos for 10 people or something. So really just grow with your audience, listen to what they have to say, what they want, things like that, and be able to separate the hating, because I don't want motherfuckers to hear me saying that and start throwing out all these crazy ideas like, yeah, Ego, you should talk about boxing in slow motion, upside down while doing it. I'm not doing that type of stuff, but that's my advice. Just get creative, be original. Like they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery, but I can't stand that shit when people like just their whole repertoire, their whole like ideas and their whole swag is they jacked from somebody else. I don't know. I guess it's because I did music and hip hop and stuff, and that's kind of taboo when you take another, like, that's why the dude Gorilla Black got so much criticism, because he was clearly trying to sound like Notorious B.I.G. I mean, clearly. I mean, you're a dude from Compton, and you're like, but then we get with the williest and the silliest. Man, I smoke where the Philly get. Like, clearly you're trying to sound like Big at that point. I could do voices all day, but when I did music and stuff, it was never to sound like nobody. Like, people compare me to people, but that's just my regular voice. That's how I rap. That's how I do. That's how I sound. You know what I mean? People say, oh, you sound like LL Cool J. You sound like Joe Budden. You heard? Like, but I'm not like, I'm not really biting them. I'm not trying to like pump it up. Man, I'm in the club and I pump it. Like, I'm not trying to sound like Joe. If I rap and it sounds like him to you, cool. But that's really what it is. You got to be original in this game, especially in boxing. There's a lot of lame shit. A lot of people who, they aren't creative. They just kind of see what's popular, what's popping, and try to steal people's ideas and stuff like that. So keep your mind on your riches. Those are my advices to people starting a new channel. Just really consistency is a big one, because people have to know to look for it. That's why I do like Monday Mail Day. People know to check for me on Mondays, and most Mondays I got them covered. Sometimes I don't. That's the other thing. I want to talk about this real quick. I'm doing Monday Mail Days, but there's an exception because it's kind of gotten out of hand, and I'm really one person, so I got to make the videos, produce the videos, edit them, all that. So if I'm covering the fight live, chances are that we won't be having a Monday Mail Day on those particular Mondays. It's just how it is right now. You guys are free to subscribe, and they have things to notify you. You guys can donate to help out and stuff, and maybe I can get even more people to help edit, help different stuff like that. But if I'm covering the fight live, it just gets too hard, because the fight, I get footage from the whole week usually, from the weigh-ins to the pressers, then the actual fight night and interviews, and I get home late on Saturdays. Sundays, I'm usually just chopping footage and stuff, so it becomes too hard to try to, in addition, answer random questions for 30-40 minutes and then edit a 40-minute video while I'm answering questions. So just expect it if I'm covering a fight live, and you'll be able to tell by the content that's on my channel, because you'll see live interviews of me talking to Ward or Terrence Crawford or something, then just expect Monday Mail Day is most likely not going to be up, because a lot of people are like, where the fuck is the Monday Mail Day, man? And I'm like, damn, can I live? Next question is from Aviata Toma. Does Golovkin fight mandatory Jacobs WBA 160? I think Golovkin wants to fight, so to me that boils down to Danny Jacobs wanting it, and if they could work out K2 Golovkin fighting on HBO against the guy who's been fighting on PBC. So kind of Cold War-ish type of stuff. And I mean, K2, I interviewed Tom Loeffler. He says he has a working relationship with Al. He said Al Haymon and him are cool. They worked together before. Triple G versus Dominique Wade was a fight where it's a Haymon fighter. So it's possible, definitely possible. But Danny Jacobs is a bigger star than a Dominique Wade. Plus, it was a mandatory. That was a mandatory. So it's kind of hard to it's kind of hard for any promoter to deny. It's like Vanes Matarosin and Lada. I think that was a fight with Top Rank and Al Haymon, but it's kind of different with mandatories, because in mandatories and eliminators and stuff, what is the promoter going to do? Cock block the fight and get their fighter stripped, or get them out of contention for a title shot? You know what I mean? So that doesn't make sense. But I again, Loeffler worked with Haymon for the Dominique Wade fight, but that was a mandatory. So seeing how, I don't know, Danny Jacobs is Golovkin's mandatory, it'd be interesting to see them work together on that's what I want to see for Bob Arum and Al Haymon and K2 and Al Haymon, stuff like that. I want to see them work together on a fight that absolutely does not need to happen. It's like no sanctioning body or anybody saying this fight is next, you guys got to fight. You know what I mean? Like, Kell Brook has to fight or vacate Errol Spence Jr. because Errol Spence Jr. knocked out Badou in an eliminator for the IBF. Now he's the #1 contender for that belt. So that's pretty much how it works. So I want to see that. I want to see Arum work with Haymon on a fight that doesn't need to happen, like Pacquiao Broner, Pacquiao Danny Garcia. Pacquiao doesn't have a belt, I don't believe. So those would all be optional fights that they could make. And that's kind of what I have to see from the people who haven't really frequently worked with Al Haymon. I just have to see them all work together on a fight that doesn't need to be made. Next question is from Sai Hyen, Mexican. Hey Ego, if Andre Ward win the Sergey Kovalev fight, who do you want to see Andre Ward fight next? And are you going to see the Hands of Stone movie? Your videos are the best. Keep it up. Definitely going to see Hands of Stone. I just want to see how they depicted the movie. And I've studied the classic fights like Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran and that trilogy. So I'm definitely going to see it. And I'll probably do a review. If Ward beats Kovalev, at that point, I think he's earned a tune-up fight or a softer touch. That's how I operate. Nobody's gonna fight killer after killer like, oh, you just beat Kovalev, now fight Beterbiev. You know what I mean? Now fight Adonis Stevenson. Like they can get a Joe Smith Jr. in there. Now I'm not talking about bums, because some people take what I say and try to bend it and twist it. I'm not talking about fight somebody that like Rod Salka of the light heavyweight division. I'm talking about just Marcus Brown, a guy like the guy who got robbed when he fought Marcus Brown. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Joe Smith Jr., Fanfara. You know what I mean? A fight that's kind of a lighter touch than a Adonis Stevenson or a guy like, what's his name? Beterbiev. And that's perfectly fine. Like I said, Pacquiao fought, or Mayweather fought. I don't even want to give Pacquiao's resume, but Mayweather fought Cotto at 54. Then he fought Guerrero. Then he fought undefeated Canelo, who was a champion. Then he fought Maidana, tough fight. Then he fought Maidana in the second fight, a guy much bigger than him with power. Then he fought Pacquiao. Then he fought Berto. I have no problem with that, because look at his lineup, right? You look at anybody else's lineup at welterweight and tell me who had a better last 6 fights, right? Pacquiao got knocked out by Marquez. That was a good fight, but in a good opposition. Someone who's always giving a problem. Then he got knocked out. Came back, fought Brandon Rios, who was a 140-pounder off of a loss, right? Moved up to 147. Then he fought Chris Algieri at a catchweight, 140-pounder with no power, right? Then he fought Bradley somewhere in between there. Then he fought Mayweather. Now he's fighting Jesse Vargas. So you have to look at it. You have to look at the chronological order. So again, if Ward beats Kovalev, which is a tough fight, then at that point he'll have fought Paul Smith, which was a tune-up from inactivity. Then he fought Sullivan Barrera, who was Kovalev's mandatory, undefeated puncher from Cuba. Then he fought Alex Brand, which is like a tune-up style fight. And then he's fighting Kovalev, which is the #1 guy in the light heavyweight division to me, right? Has more belts than Adonis. And if he beats him, then he's already proven he's the man. He's #1 pound for pound. So if he wants to fight a Joe Smith Jr. or somebody like that after, I have no problem with that. Or just a ranked guy somewhere towards the back of the top 10, top 15, then he's earned that. To me, that's kind of how I operate. Like, people have these unrealistic expectations. And the funny thing is, and that was actually the last question, they have the unexpected expectations of what fighters should do, but their fighters aren't even whoever they like. I guarantee you list your whole fighter, your favorite fighter, and I guarantee they haven't done that. Like, look at Golovkin. Who has he fought? You know what I mean? Martin Murray, then he fought Willie Monroe and Dominic Wade. Now he's fighting a welterweight, Kell Brook. You know what I mean? So that's not killer after killer after killer after killer. Most people didn't even know who Wade was. Dominic or Willie Monroe had 6 knockouts, right? And he was pretty unheard of. So whoever you name, Canelo, look at him. He fought Cotto. You get all the props in the world. Cotto's a Hall of Famer. Then you fought Amir Khan, a chinny welterweight, knocked him out. Now you're fighting Liam Smith, an unheard of 154-pounder, who most would put at the back of the list of the top names at 54. Even guys without belts like Demetrius Andrade, Vanes Martirosyan have clearly showed more skill and or done more at 54 than Liam Smith. They have a better resume at Liam Smith. You got to look at stuff like that. Liam Smith is a champion, true. He fought for a vacant belt and he's a champion and he's defended. And he has like 8 knockouts in a row. But who did he knock out? That's the thing. You look at a guy like Demetrius Andrade and he's had promotional problems that have kept him on the sidelines, hasn't got big fights. I'm sure some people aren't eager to fight his style, things like that. And explain to me how Demetrius Andrade has all that inactivity and he still has a better resume than Liam Smith, who has been fighting actively and hasn't had promoter issues. That doesn't make sense to me. Just like Ward Kovalev. Ward has a better resume than, Ward Triple G. Ward has a better resume than Triple G, but he had long, dry spells of inactivity. Stuff like that doesn't make sense. Andrade, at the very least, he could say he fought an Olympian who was a champion at the time, Vanes Martirosyan, Brian Rose, and Willie Nelson. And that's better than any name. Those 3 names are better than the names on Liam Smith. Who would you pick? Like, would the guy that Liam Smith fought to get the belt was John Thompson. Who would you pick John Thompson to beat out of those guys? Vanes Martirosyan, Willie Nelson, or Brian Rose? You know what I'm saying? It just, I know maybe the most competitive fight is possibly Brian Rose versus John Thompson, I guess. But the other fights, like, who's gonna pick John Thompson to beat Vanes Martirosyan when he couldn't even get past Willie Monroe? Right? It just doesn't make sense to me. So that's something you have to look at. Liam Smith, he could be good, but at the end of the day, his resume isn't. Period. So now he has his big test versus Canelo. We'll see what he can do. But I'm saying for him at this point, he hasn't done much. And it's shocking to see a guy like Demetrius Andrade, who's been on the sidelines, yet he still has a better resume than you. And he ain't even really fought much. He even pulled out of the Charlo fight, right? So a guy who's been inactive, pulled out of one major fight with the Charlo brother over a money dispute, and he still has a better resume than someone who's frequently actively fighting. Let you know where Liam Smith, his career has been thus far. But again, we'll see what he does with Canelo. That wraps it up. Monday Mail Day. Try to get to a lot of questions. You guys let me know how I did this week. Drop it in the comment section. Share the video. Like the video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.